Today I want to talk about Crash Bandicoot 4. No, not that one. The one we've been trying to forget about. But I've been wondering, was it really that bad? So today we're going to revisit The Wrath of Cortex. The Wrath of Cortex was the first Crash Bandicoot game not released on the PlayStation 1, and the second Crash Bandicoot game not made by Naughty Dog. And it's widely criticized by the Crash Bandicoot fanbase and often cited as where the fall of the franchise began. Well, up until it was revived with the Insane Trilogy, that is. So what is Crash Bandicoot The Wrath of Cortex? The story starts out with Uka Uka yelling at Cortex and his minions in a business meeting about how pathetic their numbers for spreading evil have been, and then Entropy reminds him of the secret weapon he's been working on and convinces him to give it a try. We find out shortly that his secret weapon is, I guess, a combination of a new Bandicoot as well as 4 new masks. 4 masks weren't enough, so you needed a whole new Bandicoot too, I guess. Anyway, Coco has a time twister now, and they have to use it to gather enough crystals and gems to stop the new Crunch Bandicoot, Elemental Masks, and Cortex. The story, in my opinion, isn't terrible, but definitely suffers from a bit of an identity crisis. We could have done with just new masks, or just the new Bandicoot. There's a lot going on, and it kind of gets confusing. Am I stopping the masks? Or Crunch? I guess technically both, but why is the mask done for after the boss fight, but Crunch continues into the next warp room? But then all the masks aid him in the final boss fight?
America explain!
And why is Crunch the only boss? It kind of ruined the quote, dangerous feel to him. I think it would have been much better if each warp room's boss was a regular Cortex minion with new powers granted by the masks, and then we gear up for Crunch to be the final boss. Or he could have even been the boss before the final boss, which could set up Cortex as the usual final boss by him being just so angry about the defeating of Crunch that he wants to take you on himself or something. It just made Crunch feel repetitive, regardless of whatever forms he took on during each boss fight. Also, not to mention all of the usual minions were demoted to simple road obstacles during the hamster ball levels. Like, you mean to tell me Entropy controls time, yet all he can do is stand on a platform and fire one singular attack on me? Come on. I don't think the story is terrible though, just has a good bit of missed potential. So what's bad about this game? Well, I already mentioned the possible story improvements and weird implementation of some of the usual bosses being road obstacles and levels, but of course there's plenty more where that came from. There are some good things too though, so let's cover the bad first. For starters, they get Entropy's name wrong, calling him Entropy, and even listing it that way in the credits. Coco has more mobility in her levels, but a watered down version of what Crash can do. And the character design for Coco is also kind of horrific. How do they manage to give Crash actual fur, yet Coco looks like her hair was made from yellow clay? And the boss fights, in addition to being the same boss over and over again, are also just uninteresting. Most of them just have the objective of avoid the attacks and then strike. And also, why is Crash's monkey bar speed so slow now? And of course, I saved the worst for last. You probably already know what I'm about to say, but the vehicles. Oh my god, the vehicles. Just trying to picture the developer's room when planning this game was some guy just like, oh, well, they love the polar bear and the tiger levels, so they must just want to be riding things. That's what she said. So let's make it half the game. Some of them weren't even implemented for more than just one level, like whatever that shoot down the ships level was. But others just made for some really annoying levels. Like the hamster ball was fun at first, but it got old real fast. And the submarine, just why? It's like they took the robot fish thing from Crash Warped and thought, how can we make it slow and put Crash inside it? The airplane levels weren't so bad, except now the enemy planes just crash right into you and almost aim to do so, which takes like a third of your health when they do. And what even is the robot suit thing? It's giving very Snuffles from Rick and Morty when he became sentient.
Where are my testicles, Summer? They were removed. Where have they gone?
Oh, wow.
And with the robot suit, your only attack is the bazooka shoot, which slows these levels down to a slug pace. You also have to be moving in order to gain any distance with your jump. If you're standing still, you literally can only jump straight up in place. It's so clunky. It's just that the best vehicle levels in the past were always the Polar or Pura levels. Well, I guess they technically weren't vehicles, but that style gameplay, I mean. And we didn't even get any of those levels. The best thing I got on top of during this game was your mom. But no, seriously, everything is a stupid vehicle of sorts. Even Coco levels use snowboard or scooter. It's like they took a decent concept, but removed all of the fun from it. Of course, back then, the internet was not as prevalent as it is today. There was no social media, really, so they didn't get that sort of feedback like we do nowadays to know what we wanted without trial and error like this. And there certainly were some good aspects to the game too, so let's talk about those. The graphics were a huge improvement, for sure, and the levels that didn't involve stupid vehicles were actually designed fairly well. They took the medieval theme from from Crash Warped and expanded on it to give us indoor castle-type levels. The snow levels were also designed really well in my opinion. And playable Coco, despite her lacking abilities, was revolutionary at the time. I remember as a kid losing my mind that you could actually walk around and attack as her, because previously the best thing we got was her being able to walk for about 10 feet before being forced to jump onto Purah. And the Coco levels actually were some of the most unique and well designed in the game, I think. I loved the bonsai theme, and then taking it the next step and moving it outdoors during a tsunami, that was great in my opinion. And not all of the vehicle levels were terrible. The minecart segment at the beginning of level 5 wasn't that bad. It was actually kind of fun. And the Jeep segment of Jungle Rumble wasn't awful. It was also the first Crash game to be multi-console, opening the gates up to introduce Crash to so many new players. And it was also a borderline sequel to Crash Warped in the form of gameplay, power-ups, and of course the Warp Room and Warp Room music, but I don't think that was a bad thing. Yeah, we don't want to repeat the same ideas over and over too many times because they will get stale and just look lazy at some point, but as a kid, I loved that in this game. It wasn't bad to just revisit it for one more game. It made it feel like an addition to my favorite game. I was only like 6 when it came out, but as a kid I loved it. Which pegs my next question. Has the internet soured our opinions of this game? Let me think back to what it was for me as a 6-year-old, or honestly probably 8 or 9. I was really late to this game. But as a kid, yeah, I got annoyed with some of the vehicle levels still, but the stupid sea mines falling from out of frame bothered me more than the act of having a vehicle in the water levels. That was just unfair, come on. But overall, at that age, it was another addition to one of my favorite games. The really long intro cutscene would get me so hyped to the story, even if it was kind of a dumb story. And the hamster ball type levels just made me wish I could get in one of those giant balls and run around myself. And at that age, I don't think I even thought twice about the repetitive crunch fights. And I replayed this game so many times over and over again, and I truly enjoyed it. Sure, with a maturing mind, issues become more glaring. But even as a kid, there were certainly games I hated. Games I only played once or twice and never wanted to bother with again. And they still suck as an adult. I grew up in the age of horrible licensed games flooding the market, so there were plenty of truly bad games that I owned as a kid, and Wrath of Cortex was not one of them. So in summary, it definitely wasn't a horrible game. Sure, in terms of Crash Bandicoot, it ranks pretty low. This might sound controversial, but personally, I had way more fun with tag team racing than this game. But again, I truly don't think it's as bad as the internet makes it out to be. It's easy to get caught up in the bashing online and memes making fun of it, and there really are some glaring issues, but it still has some fun built into it, and I do find myself revisiting it. Definitely not as often as the Insane Trilogy, or Twinsanity, or Team Racing, etc, etc, but I do dig it back out every 3 or 4 years to give it another go. And I certainly dread quite a few levels, but overall, I do still find fun in a lot of the other levels. How about you though? Comment and let me know if you enjoy any of the elements enough to replay it, or if my comments today have maybe made anyone decide to give it another go. And of course, if you still hate the game and stand by that, I support you. We all have different opinions, and that's completely okay. And I appreciate you watching this video anyway. So all that said, be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment on this video. If you'd like to further help my content making career, you can check out my Patreon and support there. It's really cheap, but even just sharing with your friends is helpful as well. Thanks so much again, and I'll see you in the next one.